Every hero has 15 signature cards, so by definition, one of them has to be the worst. This is the series where Villain Theory and I look at every hero's hero kit, their identity specific cards, and we look at which one we think is the worst, and then we rank them and say nice things about them.
That's right. Every card has a silver lining. So we're not here to, pick on, oh, this card's rubbish. We don't want to play this, garbage, whatever you guys say. Um, we're trying to find the good in some maybe less popular cards. Although I'm going to say it with the little more recent kind of expansions, waves, some of these cards are just like good and less good, but still very, very good, which has been
Mm.
kind of fun to see. Although last episode kind of broke the trend, I think it's fair to say. We had a few lower placements.
We did, and it was the first time we disagreed on every single hero.
Yeah, there was only 8 of them that wave.
I know, the biggest wave, and we couldn't find any overlap, so that was fun.
That's kind of, I think, shows a point of, how much depth there is to the game and different playstyles, like, affect things, though, There's no clear-cut answers for every situation, which is a good thing. Every card has different strengths, and just while it's in my head, I'm gonna say we are counting, their cards that they play from their deck, not identity cards, not any permanent cards that start on the board.
Yeah, we can't pick their hero cards, so Hulk got off lightly, and no permanent cause like Wolverine's Claws or Vision's Mask form or anything like that. So it has to be one that goes in your deck. And this time we are talking about Wave 7, which is the next evolution or X-Force wave. So the second of 3 waves of mutants. So we're getting into the more recent stuff now. How you feeling?
I'm feeling really excited for this. I think we were during the next evolution cycle. I think when we started this series, or we weren't far away from next evolution having happened.
Yeah.
And now this feels like we're already in the very modern stuff. This is, lead designer Tony Fauci's first wave of content, and it's gonna be really exciting to see if that affects anything in this series because I kind of think it will.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what you picked for some of these. So let's just get right into it.
Yeah, I don't remember who went first last time. Um,
It's your
I'm
channel. Why don't you go first?
I was gonna say, I think I'm gonna be greedy. I'm gonna go first, but now you've been nice and given it to me, so now I don't look like a jerk. Who should we go with first? I want to kind of get controversial first. Maybe not with the pick, but with the character, because Deadpool is very much, you love it or you hate it kind of character. I feel like. So I'm gonna start with Deadpool.
The Marmite of Marvel Champions.
That's right. This was interesting to think about. All these characters I found, there wasn't like one obvious one where my brain just like leapt to it immediately, like the exact one, I don't think. But this one, looking for the cards, Deadpool has some really good cards. But
Yeah, he does.
ultimately, I settled on Armed to the Teeth.
Interesting. Okay. I did not pick that one. So
Okay.
I'll say what mine is, and then you can kind of tell me why it's yours, and I'll tell you why it's mine. I picked Deadpool's katana, or at least one of them.
I see where we're going with this. We both went for the weapon related cards.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll talk about mine first, and then we'll get into yours. But I feel like there's going to be a little bit of overlap, which I'll let you fill in. So, Arm to the Teeth for me, it's a 2 cost upgrade, and it's really a fun card, like a really interesting card. Like, I actually, design wise, I think this is really fascinating. Response after you play Arm to the Teeth, search your collection for one weapon upgrade from any aspect and attach it face down here. Searching your collection after playing this card, just any weapon, basically in the game, in the aspects is really interesting. There's not that many choices. Maybe there'll be more in the future, but there are still a good amount, and I think that's really fun. It's kind of you break the kind of aspect thing in terms of like deck building while the deck is being played, which is really unusual. Now, if you've traveled, if you've taken a Deadpool deck to your local store and you don't have your collection with you, you might have a bit of an issue there. But nonetheless, that's not why I chose it. As an action, you get to swap the card attach it with a weapon upgrade you control, and what this basically means to me, and this is one of the main reasons I chose it, is to get use out of this, you already have to have another weapon in play, and then you swap it over. And Deadpool goes fast, so he tends to win quite quickly a lot of the time, and I don't get a ton of use out of the weapon. Sometimes I do, especially like in multiplayer, but it just has extra hoops to go through on a character that doesn't really, who just kind of powers through everything. It was kind of my overall thoughts on this.
Yeah, he tends to be a very direct hero, I feel like, and
Hmm.
this is not that. So I can see that. This is definitely a contender for me when I was looking through. But I won't talk about that. I'll talk about my pick, and then we can kind of go back and forth a little bit. For me, it's Deadpool's katana. Now, I will say off the bat, I have no idea why he has 2 of these.
Because he has two katanas.
Um, I guess he has two katanas, but if you're only gonna have two in terms of the card game, right? Like if you're only gonna have two things, I would think you'd have a gun of some kind, right? And a katana maybe. Or that maybe they would do different things. Um, Having two of them feels like too much unless you're partnering that with the other card we talked about a minute ago. They're both restricted, and it's a two cost upgrade that forces you to take a damage and then you deal two damage to an enemy with piercing. That's just a lot. Like you're spending three effective resources, right? A two cost upgrade to then still take a damage every time you use it to deal two damage, which is not a ton of damage. It takes up a restricted slot, as I said. So if you play them both, you're kind of limited with what other things you can put into play. There aren't a ton of weapons, like you said. There might be more, but for me, I wish I could just pick one of them because I feel like one of them is maybe fine, but two of them, I will never play both of these if I play Deadpool. So that's why I went this one.
Gotcha. I mean, that makes sense to me as well. I mean, my favorite thing about this card, I shouldn't say too many nice things, but the attack gain's piercing, and I think that's quite good. But like
I wish it was like Drax's knife, where he had two of them and they did different things, so you could use them differently. Just
that,
having two of them, and spoiler, or maybe I'm teasing a future other hero this wave, but I just don't really, yeah. So
yeah, I mean that makes perfect sense to me. I think if they
I
did different
think
things, it'd be very cool.
Arm to the Teeth is at least interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree. If we were looking at like the most, least interesting card in his kit, it would definitely not be Arm to the Teeth. That would be probably near the top. But I think looking at these cards again, like these are probably the bottom two cards for me. So I'm not gonna fight too strongly for Arm to the Teeth. I mean, Arm to the Teeth is great. I'll say something good about it. You could swap, a sonic rifle here, and you get loads of confuses. You can do interesting things with it. It kind of recharges the weapon when you bring it in and out, swap it around with the other one. But it's just how slow it is, and have to get the other weapon in first on a character that just kind of like summons these crazy events that destroy the game.
And
um,
crucially, it says aspect. So you can't bring
mm,
in plasma pistol, you can't bring in sidearm or anything from the basic cards because it specifically says an aspect card.
yes, yeah, can't bring any of the hero specific crazy weapons. Can't grab that multi gun from Venom.
That would be cool. If it just said bring a weapon, that would be awesome if you could bring in like Venom's multi-gun or
Mm.
Hawkeye's bow. I don't know. That would make any sense, but the multi-gun's cool.
I would just take the bow just for bragging rights. Just like, hey, I've got Hawkeye's bow.
That's a very Deadpool thing to do. Not even use
Yeah.
it, just so I have it.
Yeah. I feel like I'm happy to go for the katana. I mean, it's pretty plain. It's 2 damage when he can just pop, like 8 damage out there, or even more with a couple of combos very easily. Um,
Yeah.
it's got its
For
upsides,
me,
but
I think it's still the katana.
yeah, it's got its upsides. But we can cover those in the second half of the video when we rank the cards by saying nice things.
Yeah. All right. So I'm next, and we didn't start with the box, but let's go to the box now.
Okay, he's doing it. He's cracking open next evolution. Where are we going
And
with
I
it?
know if I pick the box hero, you will pick the other one next. So that's how it goes.
I might not be that predictable today. We'll have to see
Ooh, feeling spicy.
what fate has in store.
I'm gonna choose Domino. So scroll down if you would, sir.
I'm so happy you're starting that one because I'm going to let the viewers know now. This is the one I struggled with the most.
I think it was actually Cable for me. So
Oh, this worked out well then.
I looked through these cards, and initially I had a different card, which I will not mention. But then the more I looked at it, I settled on another one. And shades of Deadpool here. I picked Domino's pistol.
Okay. So we've got Domino's pistol here, 2 cost upgrade. Exhaust it, discard top of your deck, deal 1 damage to the enemy for each resource icon discarded this way. It gains the ranged keyword.
I will. So I won't say any more about it. I'll let you say yours, and then I'll go into it.
So I did not pick this one. But I went kind of on a similar route, and people who've watched this whole series will know I picked these cards a few times. I actually just went for her attack card, and I got to preface this with saying I don't think any of her cards are bad at all. I found this really difficult. It's just kind of like process of elimination. I was like, this card's good, this card's good, this card's good, and I kind of have to like break it down to like the final two and just pick a card I really liked. So I went for a good workout. The 2 cost event, attack superpower traded, hero action, deal 4 damage to an enemy, discard the top card of your deck, switch resource icon, deal 1 additional damage to that enemy.
I think this card is actually pretty good. So
Me
I
too.
will talk about the pistol, and then we'll go from there. So similarly to Deadpool, I don't know if she has any like cards I would consider bad, and I think this is kind of a tough choice. But what edged it for me was the fact that she has two of them. And so, like I picked Domino's pistol, asterisk, I picked one of the two. If she only had one of these, I don't think I would have picked it. I do think it's a good card for her kit. I just don't think that I ever want both of them when I'm playing Domino. Maybe that's a
Oh,
playstyle thing. I think it has ranged, which is a fine keyword. It's not super impactful though. But it's not like a kicker. You just get it. So that's okay. Odds are, right, you're getting one damage for sure. You're maybe getting two. It's rare you're going to get more than two. So it's a three effective resource upgrade to discard a card and get probably two damage out of it, which is fine. I just don't think, again, it's super impactful. It's kind of vanilla. It is thematic to have two of them, like for the character. But again, I wish they did something different. I wish she had I just don't like when we have these weapons that do the exact same thing and they're just copies of each other. I think it makes thematic sense, but it's more fun for a card game. I'll bring up Drax again if they do different things. So I just think the second pistol is forgettable for me.
gotcha. I will defend to some degree the having two of the same card, like two of the same weapon, in that if it's something that kind of has fun interaction with how the character works, if you have two of them, you up the odds of finding one earlier on, and
Mm.
you can kind of get that going. Um, I agree with what you're saying. Like the damage is a little bit unpredictable whether you're going to get one or two or rarely free damage from it. And to try and finish off minions, that can take a little bit of finessing and stuff. But I just want to put out there is a card that came with her precon sharpshooter, which basically doubles the damage of the pistols, and
Mm.
that's very good with them. I think that really, whenever I get the pistols down, I start to feel very safe that I can just handle everything with her. Just in my sort of reasoning why I didn't pick it. Um, but to talk about good workout, this is a good attack card. It will deal a minimum of 5. So it will often deal 6. Sometimes it will deal 7, but again, that's rare. But 6 is very achievable. 7 is achievable too. Let's face it; she can move jackpot around like crazy.
Hmm.
But whether you would use it for that rather than pay for something is another story. But the reason I picked it is just I think every other card of hers is even better. Like this is a really good card, but like her allies are crazy. Like the lady's crazy. Like I value the porting, especially on a 1/4 character, like more. And I love all these other cards. So like I just had to process of elimination really cut it down. I just feel like this was her least like impressive card to me. But I still like it. I still play it a lot. So I don't have strong. I don't want to see it called her worst card. But it is the conclusion I came to.
Yeah, I think again, if there was only one copy of the pistol, I would not have chosen it. To be clear,
Gotcha.
so I feel kind of the same like I do with Deadpool on it. It's a solid card. It's kind of unspectacular, but decent, and I just wish it did different things.
Yeah, no, that's a totally fair take. It's really hard for me to fight for a good workout to be worse. But I mean, I personally feel like the pistol is a card I really like for her.
I will relent. I'll say the good workout. I think it's not amazing. It's 2 for 4, 2 for 5 for sure. It's like a little underwhelming. There's no other kicker to it, so we'll go with that one.
Yeah, you know where I'm gonna go. I want to be unpredictable. I want to be crazy.
But
But
you can't.
we're gonna jump back through time. We're gonna scroll up to Cable, the crazy kind of cyborg-like non-cyborg who's got this weird virus that's made him a robot. Like it's the most comic book crazy thing ever. Oh, and he's psychic and from the future.
Yeah,
But
he is kind of a weird. Someone who doesn't read comics, it's like a weird thing to wrap your head around.
yeah, I mean, I actually really like him. Like I kind of like embrace it. It feels like a crazy comic thing. You just kind of run with it. But yeah, man, I gotta pick first now.
This is the
I
one I struggle with the most, to be fair.
Same process I've been going for a lot of these characters. Just like these are all good cards. Kind of eliminate, eliminate, eliminate. What am I left with? Very, very kind of cold logic based way to try and do it. And It's on the screen here. I'm having that last minute kind of like doubt, should I go for it? Should I not? I'm
Mhm.
going to tentatively go for, and I know a lot of players love this card. I'm going to go for how do I say it? Ascani-san, the title card, which I will quickly preface with saying I think it's a good card. I think all his cards are good. One cost upgrade. After you defend against an enemy attack, exhaust it, spend an energy, remove threat from a scheme equal to your hero's fort.
Okay. So now I'm also questioning. I definitely didn't pick that one. I thought
I
I
didn't
had
think you
narrowed it
would.
down to the one that I wanted, but now I think I'm gonna call a last minute change here, actually,
I love it.
and disregard my notes. I'm gonna go for Technovirus Purge.
Ooh. Okay, his big fancy the hero who's around player side schemes, you're choosing their own player side scheme. I like that.
Yeah.
So,
So I'll let you go first, and then I'll explain.
okay, just for the viewers, it's a zero cost card. Any keyword can remove threat from it, and once you defeat it, it has 5 threat on it. You get +1 to all your stats, in hero form and a psionic trait. But going back to Ascani-san, which is the easy one plus kind of upgrade when you defend, spend a resource, remove threat from a scheme. Um, this might just be a case of a villain who doesn't like to defend to some degree. But I've built decks around this card, and I've really enjoyed it. But this is kind of a card I feel like to be most successful if you do need to build around, and you might not see it early on unless you decide to use your cable ability to put the right side scheme out and find it. But there's so many better options in my opinion that
Mm.
it's just a little bit weird. Uh, and unless the threat removal you'll get from this defeats a side scheme, you don't ready, and you can just say, "Oh, I left the side scheme out from before." But can you have defeated it from before and got that benefit and start benefiting from it earlier if you didn't? It can work out, but it's got a bit of weird timing to it. You kind of have to, I think, build into it to get the most out of it. Although it's still usable. It's just got a few things that are not smooth and absolutely devastating, which I feel like a lot of Cable's cards are.
I have thoughts, but I will save them.
Gotcha. Talk to me about the purge.
I think this is a bit of a trap card. I think giving you +1 to your stats is fine, but it is not reliable because it can continually be pulled back out again. It's also difficult to thwart down. It comes in with 5 threat, and only you can remove threat from it. So that becomes difficult at times, and you kind of have to focus on it because you can only have so many player side schemes at a time. If you're playing a multiplayer game, right, you may want others that have more benefit to the table. I just find that this was, when he was announced, kind of the big splashy card, but I just don't think it's very good, actually. Like, temporarily giving yourself a boost to your stats isn't amazing for everything you have to do to get there. The psionic trait, maybe that's one thing you'd have to be building around to get a lot of value from it. Um,
Mhm.
I think in a solo game, this is maybe more valuable because the note about no one else removing threat from it doesn't really matter as much, other than allies, of course. And the stat boosts mean a lot more. I mean, a lot of solo players would bite your hand off to get that extra +1 thwart. I know that's very popular,
Mhm.
but I just think this is the definition of just kind of a mid card for his kit. He's just so many other better things that you don't need this.
It's funny when they revealed this card, I was like, "Wow, this is the best player side scheme in the game. They're not gonna top this." I thought this was gonna be like the cap, and then they went so much higher. They had so many
Yeah.
crazy good player side schemes.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
I gotta tell the people something. I I I considered this as one of the options for the worst card here. So I don't think it's as crazy as it might seem because I feel like a lot of people will be shocked by this.
I think they will be. My other one, the one that I was going to use, was Forced Amnesia. Um,
I,
that was the one I eventually settled on. But I think the more I looked at it right now and thought about it, I think Technovirus Purge is actually worse.
Force Amnesia, I think, was my second choice here. It was between these three cards, so that's
Yeah.
that's pretty fun.
I actually think Ascani-san, let me just say a few nice things about it before we move on. I get what you're saying about the wonkiness of it. I think this is the card that makes him sing in protection
Yes.
and makes protection a really good aspect for him because there's a lot of ways to defend without needing to exhaust. And so it's just a way that you can get more threat removal out. And I think that is awesome. right?
Mhm.
I can play sidestep or jump flip or any of those other defense traded cards and get a benefit from it. If you're doing a flow like water deck, you might get some damage, then you might also be able to thwart. But I think that's really cool and makes him a really fun protection hero. Other than that, I can understand. Like if you're having to basic defend, then you're gonna have to do it in your head, right? Like, is this enough to remove threat of a side scheme? Is there a side scheme out there? Do I really want to do that? And then ready up or whatever. Um, but I think this card's actually quite good.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think if we were rating these cards based on, what is their worst card, if you're building them in protection, I would not be picking a Afghanistan. I think if I was asking the question, what would his worst card be? If you're building around prioritizing Technovirus Purge, again, it wouldn't be a Afghanistan because you'll just have the guaranteed bigger stats and, bigger defense and bigger fort, which both combo with Afghanistan. Um, and it definitely can do a lot of good stuff. I actually also really like Forced Amnesia, and I also really like Technovirus Purge, which is part of the problem of this wave of characters.
Technovirus Purge reminds me of Cyclops' Visor in a lot of ways. Like it's a card that you get out there and you spend a lot of resources and energy to get there, and then it can get pulled away. And that famously happens a lot when you're playing Cyclops. This I feel like is the same thing, right? You're gonna slap it down, you're gonna spend a lot of time and effort thwarting this down, and then inevitably it's gonna come back out again, and you're gonna be like, all that was wasted energy that I could have just done something else with.
Yes,
So
I agree to an extent, but I think if I could like make a deal with the villain, say, okay, I'll take an encounter card, but it would just give Technovirus back to me kind of thing. I feel like I would take that deal quite a lot because Cable getting an encounter card, that's a side scheme. He's kind of equipped to deal with it very well. Once he defeats it, he'll ready up afterwards. Often you won't see that obligation until a few turns in. Sometimes you'll see it early, and that will suck. But usually you can be in a good position to remove it again, not too much difficulty. And I do like the stat boost on him. I don't know. I like Technoverse Purge. It's something I don't prioritize. When I play it, I'm usually at a point where I can easily get rid of it. I might not be getting the ready of any other player side scheme or side scheme in general at that point. So then if it comes back, it's not like too big of a deal.
mm,
Um, but I don't have super strong feelings here. I'm gonna softly stick by Ascani Sun, but if you feel like really strongly about Technovirus Purge, I'm not gonna cry any tears for putting it in the list. That's kind of how I feel.
I don't know if I feel super strongly about Technovirus Purge, but I feel fairly strongly that Ascani Sun is a good card. Like
I think they're all good cards.
yeah, okay. But like I said, Ascanistan's really good in protection. It's also really good in aggression, things that struggle to thwart. Like that's just a reliable way to get thwarting out there. And I think thwarting is really valuable in any player account, especially for someone who has two, maybe more thwart. To just like get that on the villain phase for one resource is so strong. I feel like
I'm
so I actually like that card a lot.
Yeah, I
And
agree,
Technovirus Purge, I
but
think, is much more situational in my view. I think we
I
disagree here.
I'm gonna say that I feel like Ascani Sun is a lot worse if you don't have Technovirus Purge in the victory display.
Mm,
Because it boosts your defense and it's boosting the threat move from Afghanistan.
mm.
So I don't know if Afghanistan is as good of a card if you don't have Technovirus Purge. In that
Well,
regard,
depending on the aspect, you can get a bonus anyway, right? Like if you're in
yeah,
Justice, you can get a bonus. Defense, you can get a bonus. I will. I mean, I definitely think Technovirus Purge is worse than Ascani-san, but I will relent and I don't know, man. For a character that can pull in any player side scheme, like this is worse than most of them. Like there are just a bunch that are better.
I mean,
Like off the
builds,
top of my head, I can
yeah.
just list 3 or 4 better ones. And then like, why would I be picking this one? And like maybe at the point in the game where I've cleared those other 4, maybe then I put this in. But then what's the point? At that point, I'm probably gonna win the game. I don't know.
um, you sounded like you were going to relent. Are you taking that back? Are you pushing for the Technovirus
I was
Purge?
going to, but then the more I look at Technoverse Purge, I think just like it's not like I think the fact that the one thing I just brought up is that he can bring in any player side scheme.
Yep.
So he's not as limited as other characters. And like if I can bring in any player side scheme, is this really what I'm prioritizing? This is not so he gets one at setup. This is not the one I'm picking at setup. Are you?
I'm not, but a lot of people swear by this card. But we're not a lot of people, just to put that out there. But
Yeah, we're just
um,
I
there's
don't pull this one out first. They're
there's
just better. The superpower training and build support are just the better ones right off the bat, right? This
call
one's
for
got the table
backup,
set up.
specialized training. I'd throw those two
Yeah,
into
and
the
then you
mix
go
too.
specialized training, call for backup. Then there's the one that gives out tough cards. There's the one that does healing. Like there's one that does a bunch of damage to the villain. Like there's a bunch of just better ones, I think, than this, which is slow. It doesn't have immediate impact, right? It takes 5 threat, only you can clear it.
Well,
Then you get +1 to stats, which is not immediate impact. It's like over time, I'm going to use my basic ability, or I don't know, call for backup, bring in Nick Fury, and go crazy. I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot more impactful for someone who can pull all of them in. I think it makes it weaker by comparison, to be honest.
I mean, I
Is this
think
going on your second deck pass? Maybe third deck. I mean, like at that point, the game's won. I don't know.
I mean, I don't necessarily know if I wait that long for it. Sometimes the obligation kind of brings it in as well. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, +1 fort and +1 attack and +1 defense to character that can ready. I just think it's very useful. Some people build whole decks around a Sonic trait that are quite good, and because the Sonic cards are good.
They are.
But I'm fine with Technovirus Purge if we want to go with it.
I would go with Technovirus Purge, and then I will relent the next time we're locked up. I just
Sounds
think
good.
Ascension is just way better.
Gotcha.
I'm probably gonna get killed in the comments. I don't know.
I mean, there's always, before we hard commit to that, we could always go for our joint second choice, which is Forced Amnesia, which we haven't talked about at all, really.
We could. Do you want to go for our joint second choice?
No, I mean we talked about this a lot, and I was between these three, so I'm fine with taking the Virus Purge, personally.
Technovirus Purge it is. We're getting
Yep.
killed in the comments, buddy. I'm telling you.
I mean, all his cards
People
are
are gonna
really
be
good.
mad.
All these cards are good though, so it's just think of this as an opportunity for us to say nice things about Technovirus Purge later on.
Actually, I take it back. This is not the one I struggle with the most. There's another one coming.
Oh, really? Now I'm
Now that I
scared.
look at my list again, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm next, right?
Yes, I picked Cable. You forced my hand by picking the expansion box,
I
but
did.
I did choose it. I had the option not to. Where are we gonna
Played you like
go?
a fiddle.
You did. You did.
We are gonna go to the one I struggled with the most, which is Angel.
Okay. Dude, this is really interesting to me that you struggled to this. I'm excited to hear what you went for.
I had a hard time. You didn't struggle, it sounds like.
I wouldn't say I found it like super easy, but there's one I thought you would pick, and that's why I'm surprised. So that's curious to me.
I bet I didn't pick the one you think I'm gonna pick.
That's even more exciting.
His cards feel very self-contained.
Yes.
They feel like they work really well with his whole thing. His whole thing is basically aerial and switching forms. I'll just cut to the chase. I picked his ally, Psylocke.
You went for Psylocke.
Is that what you thought I was gonna pick?
No, no. Especially thinking back to like the Colossus Shadowcat ally thing we had in the previous episode.
You thought I was gonna pick his alter ego support, didn't you?
That is exactly what I thought you were
No,
gonna
his alter
pick.
ego support is insane.
I mean, yeah. So Psylocke is a free cost ally. Sonic X Force, one in each stat, free health, but after she attacks, you get to heal or you get to ready. So
You
pretty
heal Psylocke. You don't get to heal yourself.
yes, you heal Psylocke. But that readies you. You could go to Rigo and use your basic recovery. It's interesting. But let us talk about my choice. And I struggle with this because I agree, like his whole kit all works together beautifully. And like all these aerial cards trigger all his aerial stuff. And I'm like, what do I pick? And this is where I hit you with the plot twist, where I did pick his alter ego support. And note it does work in hero form, but it works better in alter ego, and that is Worthington Industries.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, it's a it's a one cost support action. Exhaust it. Shuffle an area card from your discard pile into your deck. If you're in alter ego form, draw a card. So
this card's crazy good.
yeah, but I think that for all of his stuff to some degree. But we'll talk more about it. I'll let you talk about Psylocke.
Okay.
Let's hear about Betsy Braddock.
I picked Psylocke because his other cards are too good and then feed into his kind of cohesive design that I really like. She does not interact with Ariel, crucially, unlike all of his other stuff. She's also not an event,
Correct.
and you also can't use his avian anatomy with her, right? So all those things for me, she interacts a little bit with his thing about what form you're in. Crucially, not if you're in alter ego form, you get nothing there. But I just felt like a 1/1 for 3 is like, not. It's like an ally. Allies are flexible, but it's not. He doesn't have anything else to do with psionic, so that keyword's kind of wasted. he can heal her so she can keep doing 1 damage if you want to, or you can ready your hero, which is like the better one for sure.
Yeah.
But he has, I don't know. There's other ways to ready. This is just, I feel like, and not a bad ally, not trashing this signature ally, but I just think of his cards, this is the one I find that doesn't fit into what he's doing the most for me. That's why I picked it.
Yeah, I mean, that makes total sense to me. I mean, it does remind me of when I wanted to pick, Colossus's signature ally of Shadowcat. It's just a thing that doesn't really fit into the game plan, even though it's still like a good free cost ally. My defense of it is I think readying your hero is really, really valuable.
Mhm.
And, it also enables to team up, which does have the aerial trait, I believe, which is useful for him. But it's kind of sometimes slower impact, and it's kind of. I don't know. I'm trying to agree with you, but I actually quite like Psylocke. It's a free cost ally. If you're ready Archangel, you're getting 2 damage and then one forwarding, one attack each time. I kind of like that. And you can keep her around with the healing too potentially. From like the second you on.
The difference for me, and because I gave you kind of a hard time about picking Shadowcat, the difference for me is that Shadowcat helps to shore up a weakness of Colossus, which is his thwarting can be unreliable.
Mm-hmm.
And she also has 2 in each of those stats. So I just find her to be better. I mean, if Alec was a 2/2 ally, I think then it's different maybe. Let me hear about yours. Why did you pick the one that you thought I was going to pick? You thought we were going to agree, didn't you?
I really thought you were going for that Ultra Ego one. I was like, oh, Boomguy hates Ultra Ego.
The thing, right? I have a
um,
reputation.
Yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense about Psylocke. What's really interesting is that you're saying, "Oh, Shadowcat, shores up one of Colossus's weaknesses," and I was thinking to myself, Archangel doesn't have a weakness.
Yeah.
um, but his cards are really good. Just to talk through some of the reasoning, I didn't go for some of the other ones just quickly, and I think this is probably the reason you didn't. Is that their events they trigger his things, which are particularly that's kind of his whole thing, right? Aerial events. Um,
Mhm.
I was tempted by a couple, only because I think they are a couple are a little bit priced around the fact that he gets responses off them. Whereas I think kind of in some ways aspect aerial cards are better than some of his own aerial cards. That's not true for
Mhm.
all of them, but just a little bit that tempted me. Um, the more I think about this, this is a complete reversal of the Colossus thing we had going, because that's where we had the great old trigger ability that lets draw a card kind of thing. The one card, it's the exact mirror, which is kind of the exact same reasons of each other. Because I love this card, and I think getting to shuffle an arrow card from your discard pile into your deck. First of all, that effect
So
is
good.
good, especially if you've got something like Dive Bomb, but even like Ever Vigilant, even his own cards, especially if you're pushing toward the end of the game. Oh, I'll put in Razor Dive, or oh, threat's getting a bit dicey. Let me look up, just put another Natural Flight in there, that kind of thing. You can just it's just really good to have that kind of power over the deck. But then you get to draw a card if you're Alter Ego, which thanks to Metamorphosis, you can like flip to Alter Ego, then play Metamorphosis to flip down trigger one of his things. Like I don't want to say all the good things straight out the bat, but like I just think all his cards are really good. But this one is in some ways almost like a luxury. If this card wasn't in his kit, he would still, you would have those moments where you didn't get to shuffle that awesome card back in. But he would still be the same character, play the same way. Next to Psylocke, I feel like this is the next most removable card in terms of his game plan, even if it's very good for his game plan. Um, and there are times where I'm under pressure and I wouldn't play this. I probably wouldn't play Psylocke for the same reasons. But I just think Psylocke is, you're gonna have that more immediate impact. I do really highly value the readying of Archangel. That is sometimes it's 2 forwarding. It depends on what ability you have to change form at that point in time, what form you started in, or if you have metamorphosis. But it can be 2 forwarding. It is at least always potentially 2 attack. Kind of my perspective there.
Well, you clearly like this card because you said you picked it and then you would start talking about it and you spent the first 2/3 of what you said saying great things about this
It's
card.
really good. But
Um,
I also think
what do you
Psylocke's
think
really
his
good.
best card is? Let me ask you that.
Ooh, probably his wings. I think his wings are crazy. Like the double discount already, like super flexible. All the right keywords on it. Like, well, I guess one.
So the great thing about this is it interacts with aerial events,
Mm-hmm.
which Worthington Industries also does. You know what card doesn't interact with aerial events? It's his signature ally. So at least Worthington Industries interacts with his best card and like the whole thing he wants to do. And you said Archangel doesn't have any weaknesses earlier. I want to cut back to that because he can actually thwart. which is a weakness. Like that's your damage one. And so what Psylocke does is attack to let you do more damage. And like damage is important. That's how you progress the game. But like you can't even use her thwart to get that extra ready to like beef it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I just think she sticks out as not really working with the flow. And because I think this is such a fine-tuned kit, that sticks out to me a lot. It's like sand in the gears, right? This is such a finely tuned machine of his resource cards and his attack cards and his thwart, all his aerial events, his support card, his wings, everything works together. His hero abilities, right, that draw more cards and do other stuff. So like all of it works together. And then there's this ally who almost feels like pasted on and just gums up the gears a little bit.
I mean, I really do like Psylocke a lot, but I was just thinking about it as you were saying that, and I do want to play those aerial events. I'm thinking if we put these cards in the tier list, either of our choices, I think I'm putting them in the same tier. Which suggests to me if we can't decide, I am happy to go with Psylocke, which is
Are
crazy to
these your
me.
two bottom cards, do you think?
I would tentatively say yes, because I think at the end of the day, Archangel hits really hard out of the gate, really fast. He can do so much very quickly. His whole thing is the area events that I don't think you can rate anything above them necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are his two worst cards if you look at the whole kit. Like I told you, last time we got stuck and you relented, I would relent. If you feel strongly about Worthington Industries and you feel strongly that Psylocke is good, I'll go with your choice here.
I'm gonna say we'll go with Psylocke. I'm happy. Happy's the wrong word. I will tolerate Psylocke choice as a choice.
All right, Psylocke it is.
Two left, and it is my choice now. Which one did I struggle with more? I'm gonna leave the one I struggled with to last. So I'm picking Psylocke now. It,
X23 was tough.
mm, I was between two for her, and I was kind of between two here. I think, but I'm gonna take us all the way down to Psylocke, Sonic Hero, and I'm gonna take us down to weapons training. The 2-cost upgrade gives her retaliate, lets you ready her weapons once, but then you have to discard her. Kind of reminds me, actually, now that we look at it, like a Shuri kind of card.
Hmm. This reminds me of Shadowcat because I picked her other training card.
History
And
repeats
for me, it was
itself.
between these two, the martial arts training.
Martial arts training. So you went for the +1 defense, and after she defends, discard it to ready Psylocke.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll talk about mine first. I think probably to some degree they both share a similar thing in that they're like quite situational upgrades that kind of do give her something that she doesn't particularly otherwise ask for. That's how I felt about it. Like for weapons training, she gains retaliate. Um, but a lot of the time it's like I'm alter ego in the first place. I'm not getting hit. I have a lot of money. Typically, maybe it's how I play her. It's quite easy to have allies take it for you, especially with
Mm.
some of the psionic friendly stuff like Cerebro, among other things. And if it does hit you, one damage just isn't like one retaliates. It's fine, but it's not a game changer by any means for 2-cost upgrade. And it does something else, but when I use it something else, I lose the retaliate. So it's a case of how many times this is actually effectively benefiting me. Um, I do like reading each of her weapon upgrades. It's effectively, kind of +2 resources. But the card is 2 resources and a card from your hand, which could have been a resource for something else. Um, so I guess it's kind of a 0-cost card that gives you retaliate temporarily, is a weird way to look at it. I use this most to bank resources for the future,
Yeah.
but she has so much money anyway. It kind of I feel like if this just wasn't in her cards at all, I probably wouldn't notice very much whatsoever.
Yeah. Okay. I'll talk about mine then, which is martial arts training. Psylocke is +1 defense. It's a 1-cost upgrade, and then after she defends against an attack, you discard this card to ready Psylocke. For me, I looked at them and I felt like the +1 defense was like just a lot less useful. Not a lot, just like slightly less useful. It's not a character I'm defending with a lot. Like you said, it's pretty easy to have allies out there. So the +1 defense ends up being kind of like a nothing. Very
Yeah.
similar to the retaliate. And yeah, I can pitch it to ready, but I feel like that's not always super valuable with her. I think these are the two I looked at, and I just kind of went back and forth, and I thought at least retaliate if you have a bunch of minions, like it's doing something back. I don't know. I think could go either way on these. I kind of feel like I did with Shadowcat, which is these are kind of the two cards, and you could throw them in a hat and pick one out, and I'd be fine with it.
I like this card more than you. Just I think where I'm coming from, but I don't necessarily disagree with much of what you're saying or anything. I think giving a character +1 defense when they start the game with effectively free attack and piercing or free fording is crazy because I still feel like this is the worst. You pay a card to upgrade it, and it's still the worst of her free stats. It's kind of how I
Mm,
feel about it. It's not reliant on the weapons being in the right form, but she can change them so many times. In some decks it matters that do things in a lot of sequencing, but for the most part. I do not want to defend with her if it's going to prevent me attacking or thwarting. But I do like the readying up for her. If I can defend for free and then discard this immediately and ready up, kind of almost like a defense event that blocks free damage for 1 cost. That's what I kind of like to see this as. Kind of like a magic shield that only works for herself, if that makes sense.
yeah, it's like Magic Shield
Um,
is what I thought of too.
which I like. But it's very weird in her kit, and I like if you get that big attack coming towards you, having a free extra, I feel it's similar like we said about Magic Shield all those episodes ago. It's
Mm.
pretty handy to have.
For me, it's the resource thing. That was the deal breaker. Like at least the other one, when I pitch it, I get some resources so I can kind of bank them for later. It's almost like
Hmm.
one of those enhanced cards, Like I
Yeah,
just spend now and I can use it later when I want to. That's what weapons training ends up being for me most of the time. I just save it until I need to pay for something and I've used my resource generators. I'm not married to either one of these, so if you feel strongly, let's go with that one.
I softly quite like martial arts training. Just as kind of an insurance policy, like oh the villain busts out with like overkill, or something happens, an extra attack, and you've got that in your pocket to defend it and still be ready next turn. But like they're all fine, and especially skill cards, which you'd mentioned they're all skill traded, which works with training
Mm.
regimen. Um, but I would push quite strongly toward choosing weapons training.
Done. No argument.
Done. Awesome.
You're a big
Cool.
Psylocke fan, right?
I'm a huge Psylocke fan. I really like Psylocke.
Let's go to the last one. We know who it is already, so we can just go there.
Yep, we can just head to X23. So X23, reading character. This is, I think, technically your choice, even though it's no real choice because it's the last one. But you get to
Yeah, but I
choose
think
the
that just
first
means I have
card.
to go first.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, this one was tough too. I At the end I'll share some of the contenders I have. I don't want to give all the ones away that I was thinking about. I'll just say the one that I landed on and then you can make your surprised face and we can hear what yours is.
Excellent.
I picked Puncture Wound.
Okay. Not the craziest thing I've ever heard of, but it wasn't in my consideration.
Okay.
But I'm the
We
cards are
should say
so good.
Puncture Wound is a 0 cost upgrade that you attach to an enemy that X23 or Honey Badger attacked this turn. The attached enemy gets -1 attack and a forced response. After the player phase begins, discard this card and deal 3 damage to the attached enemy.
Yep. So then I've
This is
got
a
a.
really good card.
It is a good card. X23's
Yeah.
crazy character.
Yeah.
um, I was torn between two, and I can talk about mine since you said yours. I was torn between the sister card, Sisterly Bond, and Sisterhood, both of which I think are good
Thank you.
cards.
Those are the ones I was. And then I thought it would be crazy to pick those. I thought if I pick that, people will revolt. You will lose all these subscribers because everyone seems to love those. Those are the two. And then I went away from those. Thank you.
I will talk about Sisterly Bond first, just briefly, because I am picking Sisterhood. I will let you guys know, but it wasn't easy because it was good. Sisterly Bond. The only reason I considered it is just what if Honey Badger is not in play, and the obligation can do that, that kind of thing. But the numbers can get really crazy with that card, but it's just more conditional than everything else of hers, which is just like absolutely crazy incredible. Is kind of how I would summarize a lot of her stuff. So I chose Sisterhood, the 2 cost support, action, exhaust it and discard an X23 card from your hand, search your deck and discard pile for Honey Badger, and add it to your hand.
That was my second choice. I think
Mm.
Sisterhood is one I almost picked. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. I will explain why I eventually chickened out and picked Puncture Wound instead. I
All
think
right.
Puncture Wound is a good card, and man, I wish this was an aspect card because I would play it a
Oh,
lot.
yeah.
Um, I think Puncture Wound doesn't do much for the Honey Badger build. It is very hard to find a card that is her worst. This isn't super impactful. It's one that has like future impact. So you play it down and they get -1 attack, which can matter. And then they deal 3 damage, but you're spending a card from your hand to do something that doesn't do anything until the next turn, essentially. I think I wish I do wish it was like when the villain phase begins or when the hero phase ended, so it would just like do the 3 damage before you get attacked. But if you put it on a minion or something, you might still get attacked and then it kills it next turn. I don't know. I just find this one to be a little situational. Like it's good and cost 0, so I end up playing it a lot, but it feels like often there's things I can do to spend my cards that have more immediate impact than this.
Gotcha. Okay, I have a lot of thoughts, but we're gonna sneak away from this, and I
And
will just give my initial thoughts on Sisterhood.
something
Um,
tells me you should tell us your thoughts about Puncture Wound before we go to the next phase, because I don't think we're going to see Puncture Wound over there.
oh really? Okay.
I mean, Sisterhood was like my 1B, to be honest. So if that's what you pick, I'm happy to go with that if you like this card.
Okay.
I think, yeah,
I'll keep it.
I'll
I'll
let you
keep it.
talk.
I'll keep it quick about this one then. For me, in my head, I see this card in two ways. One is it's a zero cost upgrade that the attached enemy gets a -1 attack. And actually, this is interesting because you picked practice defense for Cyclops, which is very similar to that.
Hmm.
It's interesting
I
because
did.
he's in some ways slightly defensive, which typically more a you thing than a me thing. Giving the enemy less attack when they attack. It's a little bit reminiscent of Vision Intangible, slightly. But
Take it easy.
for me, I like this kind of like multiplayer. You put it on the villain, everyone gets hit for one less. I think that's kind of nice. I don't mind it if it's on a minion because minions don't typically hit for like that much. Like on average, like two maybe. So if I get hit for 1 damage by a minion, then whoops, it takes 3 damage. Sure, zero cost card. I'm usually pretty fine with that. But it can just help you finish something off. You can just if you're trying to end the game anyway, 3 damage on the villain. It's just I like both of these effects. The downside is you have to attack that enemy first. So if you've got things you need to do but you want to put it on the villain, and then I'm forced to like tap the villain for a couple damage to just put this on it to get the -1 attack. It was maybe my third choice, I will say, but I feel like for me it was a distant third, and I think like the clue is that you said you often end up playing it. This is just a card I do play a lot, and I do think it does quite good things.
Hmm.
But hard cards are very difficult to choose because now I have to justify Sisterhood, which gets you a Honey Badger. For the record, Honey Badger, 2 cost ally. You can basically ignore everything on this card except the response, which says after she takes an amount of damage, ready X23. And that's a very, 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 very good thing to just have on the board.
And the sidekick decks with X23 get insane.
Honestly, any deck though, like you can do like attack training, even mission training. But yeah, the sidekick is numbers happen, big numbers, or, or maybe a lot of medium numbers in quick succession.
Yeah.
um, so I've got to talk about Sisterhood now. This is the card which 2 cost support exhaust. You ditch one of your cards, your X23 cards, and then you can get Honey Badger in your hand. For me, this is a card that sometimes I play and I maybe use once, and that's it. It depends on the game, especially like a lot of X23 games can go quite quick, shall we say? So, and a lot of the builds I like to play have Honey Badger on the board with maybe like a health upgrade, and then just between the healing you get, she's got a healing card that heals Honey Badger regenerative longevity. There's the other way of doing it where you just keep sacrificing her on repeat. But I don't like that as much because I mean, just if you can heal her and reuse her, it's a lot more valuable than just blocking and losing out on the response being on the board. I really need to talk about Honey Badger a lot to really justify this card. I feel like. But if Honey Badger just isn't leading play very much, I don't need this card a ton. And one of the small reasons for that is, aside from potentially leadership and just having extra ways to get Honey Badger, her Ultra Ego ability lets you shuffle Honey Badger back into your deck. So if you do get, you do lose Honey Badger, you can flip down, shuffle her in. You might just get her next turn anyway, or even potentially immediately if you're very, very lucky with the card draw from her Ultra Ego. So I don't know. It's Sisterhood is situational value, and sometimes I just find myself not using it very much whatsoever. And although I can keep talking about how good Honey Badger is, X23 is also still disgustingly good without Honey Badger. So sometimes I
Yeah.
just need to do something else. So I feel like I talked a long time there. Um,
I feel
what do you
like
think?
Sisterhood only exists because of the obligation. I will agree with you and go with Sisterhood for sure.
Cool. Let's go with that. then this is the fun part of the video where we have to run over to the tier list. Let me just check I'm not forgetting any characters again.
Yeah,
Phoenix last
because we
time.
did forget someone once. We forgot Phoenix, remember? Just make sure, double check.
Oh, that's funny. No, we've hit all six. In our defense, the episode had more heroes than usual, so it kind of felt like we were there. But we're gonna hop in Fury's flying car again, fly over to the tier list, and we're gonna start to rank these against the other quote unquote worst cards.
Let's go. Welcome back. Villain Theory and I have done the first part, the hard part. Where we said negative things. Now we're ready to say good things. I had a great ride in Fury's flying car, and I'm excited to get into it. How you feeling, Villain Theory?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I got a bit of motion sickness from the the flight, but other than that, I'm good. We have a lot of cards on this tier list now. It is full to
We
the
do.
brim. But we've still got this wave, and then we've got the next episode as well at a minimum until some future stuff is out, maybe. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to get into this.
Yeah, I think after the next wave, we'll have something of a final list, and I imagine we'll take a break from this to let us get through the next wave of content to be released, but then also just to kind of sit with it for a while. I don't want to instantly come up with the worst card. I want to do have some time. Even Magneto is pretty new. I feel like it's
Yeah,
pretty new to be picking a worst card, but I think
but I
it's a
know what
good
my
place
choice is.
to pause. Do you know what yours is?
I know what my Magneto choice is
I think
already.
I probably know mine is too, but I want to make sure, I'm not doing a hot take on it and one game I play with, and so I want to have time to live with these cards a little bit.
Yeah, no, that makes total
But
sense. I agree.
that's not where we're at today.
Nope.
So why don't you go first, pick a card, and slap it on the list, and let's talk good things about it.
Okay, I'm gonna fly into one of the ones you struggled with the most. I'm gonna grab Psylocke from Angel.
Okay.
And free class ally, I'm thinking better than C tier. I'm looking at B tier, and I'm thinking ready me up like multiple times, potentially stick around. I mean, I feel like it's better than B tier, which kind of raises the question to me: is it A or S tier? That's where my brain goes, and I think it's at least in this territory, and possibly this territory.
Ooh.
That's what I'm
Okay.
thinking.
So you're gonna drop it there to start with?
I think I put it at the end of S tier is where I'm going for it.
Man, S tier out the gate. I think we may have a couple S tier cards here
We
today.
we can always move one down if they like starts to get crowded, and we can like kind of cut it down
Yeah.
potentially two.
I don't think this is crazy. My gut initially when you grabbed the card, what popped in my head was synth suit as like a baseline.
Mm,
It's going to give you a bit of a ready, right? Similar kind of effect, but an ally is more flexible. So immediately that's where kind of I thought to start. I don't think it's crazy to go to S tier. Let's leave it there and see kind of how we feel after we sit with it for a little bit. I could
mhm.
see it dropping down into the A, but I could also see it staying. So let's kind of let me live with this for a little bit and digest it.
Okay, we'll come back to this to be revisited.
Yeah, I'm sure. Every episode I feel like we look through and then we're like, hang on a second. Webbed up should be a lot higher than that. Or whatever, for example.
Or lower, but yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's
Okay.
look at that. But I do want to take the opportunity to say some good things here.
Yes, 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 yes.
I love the ability to ready. I just think it's really, really just flexible. Even if you could say, "Oh, Archangel's ready," that's probably 2 damage. And she's got 1 attack. So, it's a combination. You're doing 3 damage between those characters that turn probably without any like additional upgrades and things boosting them. You can split where that goes, right? And it's response. You get to do the 1 attack, maybe pop a tough, and then you get to ready up, and then you get to like hit wherever you want to. I think that's really good. And the ability to heal Psylocke means in longer games, especially if you get her out early, you're going to get continuous value potentially that way, which I also like quite a lot. And worst case, you get her down to 1 hit point, I'll just block with her. And, jump blocking is kind of good in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. 3 cost isn't crazy. Angel generally has enough resources to pay for a lot of stuff. He's not super rich, but he is fairly wealthy, I would say. I think a 3 cost, 1/1, 3 hit point allies with a good ability is pretty good. You can mix it up and try to game it so she stays out there, and you can try to flip so you heal her and then flip so you ready her. I think that's a fun little thing you can do. And like you said, worst case, you can block. Worst case, you can also thwart if you need a little bit of thwart here and there.
Yeah.
Like You're probably not going to, but it can soften up a tough card or whatever. I think it's just a versatile ally, and a pretty good card.
I don't know if I've got a lot to add. I mean, enable the team up card. I think I mentioned that earlier.
I think it's just solid. I mean, you don't have to justify an ally all that much, I don't think, to be
Yeah.
high on the list.
Let's pick another card. It's your turn. Where are we going? We've got the Katana, Sisterhood, Weapons Training, a Good Workout, and Technovirus
I
Purge.
want the katana.
Let's say the Katana. Where are we putting this weapon?
I I don't like this card. I think this is, to me, at best, a C level card,
Okay.
maybe low C. It's maybe better than Gamora's sword. I don't know. It's not great.
I
Again, I will say
mm,
that I think, in my mind, when I picked the katana, I didn't pick both of them, right? I picked the second copy. So
right.
I will have to present. So that's how I'm thinking of this card. Is I'm thinking just the pistols that I picked for Domino. I'm thinking of the second copy. Like, if he only had one, I don't know if I would have picked it. Maybe I would have, but that's kind of in my mind how I think about this card. I think it's mid to low C tier probably.
Interesting. If we were interpreting it that way, I probably put it lower as well. To me, I like both as like an extra chance to get it if I wanted it. But even in that
Mm,
regard, I still feel like this is still a good card. 2 damage of piercing every turn. I mean, it does damage you, but that for Deadpool doesn't matter a ton.
yeah,
Uh, I'm looking at some of these cards. I think for me, I move it up 2 places maybe. Um, and I think I'm happy with that because I do kind of like Gamora, so I do kind of like all these ones above it.
yeah.
Um,
I think that's fine there.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm
It's not
pretty happy
like
with
an
that.
F tier card. I don't think it needs to go at the very bottom, but I just don't think it's super impactful. I agree with you. The one damage doesn't matter a lot. So let's say nice things about it.
Mm,
It is just consistent damage you can put out, right? Um, it's a little, for me, it feels a little expensive to cost, and then continually taking damage also. But it is piercing, which can be nice. I think that is more valuable of a keyword than ranged.
yep.
And when it matters, piercing, that is, it really matters. Like, when there's tough cards, this does do quite a bit. It feels good to discard a tough card. So, it also can be used for swapping weapons out if you're using arm to the teeth. So that's fun. Overall, yeah, it's just a kind of solid, if unspectacular, weapon upgrade that feels like you could have given to almost any hero. Feels a little bland.
Yeah. I think I agree with all those points. I do think piercing is maybe like the most useful keyword to have on an attack. I think I do quite like it. I almost don't consider the take 1 damage a big thing because it's Deadpool, but it is still a thing. Um, but I don't know if I can justify putting it above the next few cards. So I like it. It's a weapon. You can either lock and load this into play if you so desire, that kind of thing. And it's fine. It's solid. I think the reason it seems so much worse for me than it actually is only because everything else Deadpool has is typically very, very, like very good. Kind of explosive, and this is just nice. It's good.
I don't think I have anything else to add.
Cool. Then let us proceed. What am I going to choose?
Ooh, what are you gonna pick?
I have not put any thought into placing any of these anywhere. That's going to be exciting. Uh, let's go ahead and grab weapons training. Weapons training for me, just the fact you get like retaliate, you bank the resources. This is not an F tier card. I
No.
thought like a D tier, and I just immediately think it's better than a few of these. Um, It is not jumping up to like A or B tier for me. I'll put it that way. But I think this
Hmm.
could be another C tier contender. The ability to bank resources, even if it's at a one deficit, is still pretty handy, especially for
Yeah.
Psylocke. 'Cause, a couple of her events, they cost a bit of money. She has resources, but you can have these big turns sometimes that are pretty nice. Um, I'm kind of a low C to D tier. In fact, I'm gonna be a little bit ruthless here. I'm gonna be double ruthless here. I'm gonna put this at D tier, but then I'm gonna drop web binding from Ghost Spider and put that there. That's what I'm feeling.
I'm fine with that. I think web binding has fallen in my estimation, kind of comparison to some of these cards. So
Mm.
I'm fine with that.
C tier is starting to look stronger and stronger rather than Web Binding looking worse to me. But like a lot of these C tier cards just are, perfectly, good cards. So,
Mm, yeah.
I mean, we're trying to say nice things to all of them, but like they are especially like easily playable in a lot of circumstances. Or the right circumstance is very valuable. Um,
Yeah, I
so
think generally C tier, like these are cards I'm not unhappy to play and will play usually. I think when you get a D tier, these are cards that I'm a little more selective about playing. To some of them, just I pass on.
yeah, I kind of feel like there's a cutoff points between like Jet Boots and Crisis Interdiction here. But it's almost like a D plus
Crisis
and a D
Interdiction.
minus.
Crisis Interdiction's rough.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I agree. There's
um,
kind of a cutoff in the middle there of cards I don't really play very often.
yeah. So how do you feel about weapons training being there? And what nice things do you have to say to maybe convince me otherwise or justify it being above these other cards?
I mean, I think you kind of said it all. I don't have a ton to add. I think she doesn't struggle for money, um, but it's nice to bank some for later, right? That's always useful. Retaliate, it's not super impactful, but it's still something, like you have it and you could just basically accidentally be doing damage. Like, seriously, right? Like, you can only defend so many times. If you're not having allies eat things, if you're taking one damage from a minion, you can just take it and know you're dealing one back, and I'm fine with
Mhm.
that. I think it's just not one I'm prioritizing to play, right? So
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of nice for her protection builds, which are good. I mean, all her builds in every aspect are crazy good, in my opinion.
she's pretty strong.
She can do a couple things. I think for me, I'm happy with that.
All right, let's go to the next one.
Where are we going?
Let's do the Purge. I'm gonna do Technovirus Purge.
Taking the player side scheme, the first and for a while at least, probably the only player side scheme we're gonna have on here. Where is it gonna go?
Hmm. I don't know if we'll get another one. I think probably won't. I am gonna put this. My first instinct tells me to put it in the low B tier, maybe high C tier. I think low B tier is appropriate. I maybe high C. I think I play all the cards in B tier more than I play Technovirus Purge. I might drop it down to the top of C tier. I feel like Vision's Cape and Accelerated Reflexes are kind of good comparisons for me. They're cards that I will play sometimes, but I won't prioritize over everything else in my kit, and sometimes just won't get played. I think that's kind of where I would put it.
Gotcha. I'm I'm of two minds over this because I was thinking like beta A is what I had in mind.
Mm,
Uh, the 80 is like very strong. Like some of these, like the arrow and the white stance for Nebula. These are almost like if they're the only cards I have that are like an arrow or a technique. There's like auto plays. We have some really strong cards. There are some really strong cards there. So
mhm.
I think definitely not A tier actually. So beta C, sorry, is the range I am looking at as well. I mean, this card is you do get to put another scheme in the victory display with this. It is going to ready you
Mhm.
up. It does give you the big stats. It does work with Scani Sun. Um,
It feels like the ones that are in B tier are, with the exception of maybe Too Stubborn to Die, are all immediately impactful. I feel like Technovirus Purge feels more like Vision's Cape, where if you put it out and like put the resources into it, you're gonna get something over time. The same thing with
mhm,
Advanced Accelerated Reflexes versus like Big Hands or Wrist Gauntlets, where I get something right now and does
yeah.
something. Technovirus Purge doesn't do anything right now. In fact, it doesn't do anything for a little bit, probably a few turns.
I mean,
And
I would say if you defeat it and ready up, you can immediately use a stat boost. So a little small defense.
if you can defeat it right away, it's not super, like,
Well,
5 is enough that it's not super easy to defeat right away. It can be done. It's not like impossible.
mm,
But 5 is enough, I feel like, where you have to have the right card in your hand and you have to use your basic ability. Then it's possible. If you can't do it in that one turn, then it's multiple turns. And then the +1 stat boost is also for a long game where you're going to get value over a long time. So I don't know. That's how I think about it. You want to put it higher in B tier?
I'm I'm
You want
wondering.
to.
I do kind of want to, but I also kind of wonder if the way you're making the argument. I wonder if Rocket's reload is a little bit too high in comparison to like some of these like really solid attacks all the time.
Mm.
Uh, I'm gonna do a little another little tweak. maybe I move Rocket's Reload down, and maybe my compromise is I will let Technovirus Purge stay there. I think that is actually fine. Like I do pass on it a decent bit, and like some of these other cards make such an impact above it. Comments won't be
I
happy
just
about
think,
this. It's still good.
but in the B
Mm,
tier, I think those are cards that I play almost every time they're in my hand, right? And the C tier are cards that sometimes I do and sometimes I don't.
yeah. You know what? We'll we'll stick with it. We'll stick with it.
Because I think if for me, like the way I play, right, and same for you, like if Technovirus Purge was a B or an A tier card, it's the one I would be taking every time with his setup ability because I want to play it right away. But it's often not. And I often go through a deck pass before I get to it again. He just has other stuff I'd rather play. Maybe it's a playstyle thing. I know people love that card.
Yeah, I mean, I do have some very good experiences with it, but at the same time, if we have like build support, superpower training, cool for backup, specialized training, for me, those hitting like an SS plus tier category that if they were on this list somehow, and this does not get close to them in my opinion. Um,
I, I would like to suggest another change. While you think about
hmm,
Technovirus Purge, I've
go
been
for it.
playing a lot of Spectrum recently, and I've been playing Pulsar Shield less and less than I thought I would even. I would maybe slide that one down a little bit.
I do like Pulsar Shield, but I'm not opposed to it.
I
Uh,
don't think it's a bad card per
hmm,
se, but like what it means for Spectrum, I think isn't great.
yeah.
So I might
Okay.
slide it down a little bit.
Okay. I'm gonna make you a deal. We could slide this down
Love
one.
deals.
We could slide this down one here,
And we'll
and
bump
then
webbed up way up.
Technovirus could fly up to here. Same position, like numerically, if we listed them out, but it's just a tier higher for like the potential it has. I think is very high, and the
Hmm.
Sonic thing you can build whole effective decks around that. I think that is valuable.
All right. I'll go with it.
Cool. Okay. So we got
What are we picking next here,
Technovirus.
my friend?
Ooh, whichever one
We
I
have two
pick here
left.
is leaving you with one.
Hmm.
I'm I'm gonna go for the one I think is more difficult to place. Maybe I think the value is more harder to pin down, and that is gonna be Sisterhood. Where am I putting Sisterhood?
I don't have an instant gut reaction of where I think it
Me neither.
belongs. This is a difficult one to place.
I
I
feel like
think it has a really high variance. Like it can either be really important or it can be a
mm,
card you just don't care about at all.
my head says A to D tier, which is like 90% of what tier it is.
Yeah. Well, it's not an F tier card.
No.
I could take that off.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an S tier card. I don't even think it's an A tier card. I think it's between B
Mm.
and D. And I can see arguments for all of that probably.
I'm thinking I prefer Accelerated Reflex. Mm, do I prefer the Garden and the Thieves Guild? And do I typically get more use out of those cards? Honestly, yes. I feel like I get more use out of those two cards here than Sisterhood.
Yeah, I agree.
I think maybe this is where it goes with the other kind of Ultrigo supports. I mean, this is not an Ultrigo support, but it
So
feels
it's
like one.
better than Gamora's sword, you think?
Um, Dorsal is good. Like they're all good in their own way. Like Sisterhood, it's just a consistency of how much value am I actually going to get in a game is so up and down, like you said. Um, when it really
Yeah, I think it
helps
has a
me, I
bigger
think it
variance.
goes up. I'm going to stick with that. That's my opinion. But I'm obviously if you feel like it should go down, we can nudge it down. I do not think it is a D tier card.
I think I would move it below the sword and keep it above the katana. I just think, yeah, I think maybe more than any other card that I'm looking at here, I think it has just higher variance. Like this, such a high ceiling on this card. If you're using Honey Badger a lot and letting Honey Badger go in and out of play, it's super valuable. And if you're not, like, you're probably not even playing this down. Like, if you get Honey Badger, for example, on turn one, you mulligan into it, you may never play this card if your game plan is to keep it in play, or you're doing you play Suit Up and you're just trying to keep it in play. You don't play this card at all. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's many cards where sometimes you play it and it's amazing and you get a ton of value, and sometimes you play it and don't get any. I don't see many cards like that on this list.
Hmm.
So it's hard to place.
It's
And so I
interesting.
think by default, I put it in
Mm,
the middle there.
yeah. No, that's good for me. I was gonna say it's interesting thinking about this, about, how much we play it, what kind of value it gives. We thought we might be getting some other S tier contenders here, and I don't think we put anything else in even A
No,
tier, right? Which is
no.
interesting. I am Technovirus is anyone Technovirus is actually the only other one, like maybe like Sisterhood, that I think could, potentially give you tons of value. No, I'm tentatively happy with this, which leaves us one more card for you to place.
Card. Hmm. This one is tough. I think this is worse than the other attack cards in B tier.
Gotcha. So, and you're thinking like the initial like point it can go highest is up against some kind of thing.
It's not bad. Yeah, I'm. Is this? It feels crazy to call this a C tier card. So I think it's probably at the bottom of B tier. But it's 2 for 5, so it's very similar to some of these things. But
It's
I feel like
mm,
Venom's gives you 2 for 5 with a kicker, and Spider Woman's gives you 2 for 5 with a kicker,
yep.
and Miss Marvel's has a higher, it's 2 for 6 if you use her ability. So
Mm.
I think it's worse than all of those. But I just don't
I'm
think I could put it in C tier.
I think it's just such a solid card. Like it has a superpower trait as well as the attack trait, and you can manipulate the damage. You could potentially, if you needed to, make it deal 7 if you had Jackpot in hand. Or if you studied Ultra Ego, you can sometimes like manipulate that specifically if you needed the burst damage. But I mean, I guess you often have a pistol out to like use that extra damage if you need it. But no, I'm talking it back down. Um, for me, it's definitely in this bracket though, with like the kind of like the attack bracket.
It's very similar.
Um,
These are 2 costs for 5 damage, right?
yeah,
And this could be 2 for 6 or 7, like you said. But that's unreliable.
this is not a C tier card. I think this is the right place for it. Somewhere roughly
Uh,
here.
C tier didn't feel right to me, but I think maybe I put it right there,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah, okay. Are we happy with this? Because that was all of them. I feel like I'm pretty happy with them. The only one I'm tempted to move up is Technovirus. Everything else I feel pretty content.
I might swap the places of the two B tier cards, the Venom and the Miss Marvel card. I might swap the places of those the more I look at them.
Hmm.
I feel like Venom's is just better a little bit.
Yeah, I mean it is. Like Miss Marvel's relies on her other like abilities and cards to make it good, but like having attacks is so vital for her. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to rate it. Like by that rating, I could move it way up, or I could move
Yeah.
it like way down because it's just the flat value of it is not good.
Now the next episode we do, Bill and Deer, we're gonna be like, it's the last list. This is it.
Yeah.
I'm in for
I
now. It's gonna be
do
a
all the
document.
shield
It's a living
stuff.
document.
Yeah. I'm
Has
mm,
anybody shared theirs? I'm curious if any viewers have shared their lists.
yeah, let us know if you've got anything going for that. I'm just looking at our S tier here. I'm thinking about the next episode, and I'm thinking just off the top of my head, I think we'll definitely have at least another S to A, couple contenders is what I'm gonna predict that. We thought that for this wave, and we didn't put that much there, just Psylocke, so we'll
I
see.
bet we will not get an S tier card in the last wave. I bet that'll be the end of our S tier.
Ooh. I can tell you, just thinking about it quickly off the top of my head, there's one character that I'm really struggling with that I think it's gotta score high. But how high? We'll have to
Mm.
see. We'll have to see.
It's not always the ones that I think will score S tiers that make S tier, you know?
Yeah.
I think if before the series you had said like which of these worst cards or like, gave me a list of all these, like which one of these are S tier. I don't think I would have picked those necessarily, but you know, here we are.
Here we
And
are.
it doesn't necessarily correlate to character power because my gut would say like the strongest characters probably have the best weak cards, right?
Mhm.
But there's Doctor Strange at the bottom of D tier, but also Spider Ham is an S tier, But I wouldn't think, yeah, just those Adam Warlock is solid. Colossus is solid. I don't think anyone thinks Colossus is like the fourth strongest character in the game, though, right? So
No.
it's interesting how this does not correlate to power because there's
Mm.
Hawkeye at the top of the A tier with Nebula. So it's
I
interesting.
I think there's a trend where if we were forced to pick like what we thought maybe the weakest characters in the game, maybe for me some of those have cards in F tier. But
Yes.
overall, it's like really up and down. I think throughout the whole list.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can find holes in that, though, right? Like Ironheart is by no means an F tier character,
Yeah. I mean,
or
Phoenix
Phoenix,
Phoenix is definitely
or
not.
Iron Man. So
Nope. Especially in
half of those
multiplayer.
maybe. So it's hard
Yeah.
to, yeah, because I think when we started this, not to get all reflective, it's not over yet. But when we started this, I think I would have assumed like the stronger the character, it's probably going to be that. And I think I said on the first episode, like the newer characters are more likely going to be at the top, which is not necessarily the case.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how it goes by designer because the next wave uh, is the
Mm.
same designer. That's be Caleb Grace is like the lead designer, not on every hero, I think, but most of them. So in the previous wave, Mutant Genesis, which we did last episode, also led by Caleb. Um, what we found is that a lot of characters, even very strong ones, had a lot of like D to F tier cards. We put like mental paralysis here, running insert intangible interference, Logan's cabin. Uh, I'm wondering if the next X-Men wave, like our final one for the time being, episode, wonder if we're going to see a few more drop down here. If it's going to be like really different, or if we're going to see like an overall trend.
Hmm. That's a good question. We didn't. We should have like color coded these somehow by designer. We can look at that maybe.
Yeah, discussing cards
But
is
yeah,
fun. Who knew?
discussing cards is fun. That's what we like to do. So, listeners, viewers, drop down below and tell us if we got it right, if we got it wrong, which ones did we mess up on. And I'm always excited to go through the comments and read what people think and read how they interpret what we say because my experience playing the game and how I play it is apparently different than a lot of other people. You and I have famously disagreed on on a few of these. Webbed
Oh
up,
yeah,
webbed
a
up.
little
um,
bit.
but yeah, I just think it's interesting how as this has gone on, I have learned more about my own playstyle and more about yours when I'm forced to look at individual cards. Right, I
Yeah.
have become the anti alter ego guy. Which I wouldn't have said about myself before this. I would have said like, I flip down as much as anybody else, right? Like an average amount. But now I think I'm realizing I flip down a lot less than other people do. So it's interesting.
It is definitely interesting, and it's also interesting in the comments. Sometimes what we get is somebody, we'll get a bunch of people that like really strongly saying, "Oh, it wasn't this one." Then a bunch of people really strongly saying it was. So some of these cards are just quite polarizing, maybe in style or design, which is some of the ones that I disagreed with strongly, I also agreed with strongly, which is kind of fun to see as well.
Yeah, it's always I'll go through the comments and I'll see the first comment be like, "Oh, this is so wrong. It was this one." And be like, "Oh, okay, I guess maybe I was wrong." But the next comment down, I'll be like, "No way, it was the other one." And like, "Oh, okay." So I think there's enough interesting stuff happening with these cards that we all disagree. It would be pretty boring if you and I sat down and then each hero we agreed, and then put them out, and people were like, "Yeah, that's about right. Cool, moving on." Instead, it's like, "This is crazy. How can you put this card here? Like, I love that card." That Justice for Shield Toss is still trending, I'm pretty sure, on Twitter.
Oh, 100%.
People think like, "This card's great. How could you have not picked the helmet?" And other people say like, "No, it's definitely Shield Toss." So it's interesting.
It is
It's fun to talk
interesting.
about.
Yeah, no, I really, really enjoy it. Really looking forward to the next episode. Hope all you guys are as well. Like Boomguy said, share your thoughts.
Second wave in a row, we didn't agree. But yeah, thanks everybody for listening and tuning in. This is a fun series. I'm looking forward to the next one, but also disappointed because that means we're going to take a break for a little bit. But yeah, hopefully everybody gets a lot out of this and enjoys it. And don't forget to be nice to each other. It's a hard world out there.